I think you're required to record a public meeting.
Yeah.
You are not.
You're not?
Nope.
Well, we are because someone may want to be entertained by us. All right. So we have the
Heidi is
minutes.
joining us.
We've all had the minutes. Could I? Oh, here's Heidi. Okay. Heidi. there
Okay,
she
so,
is.
yeah, I
Okay,
had to allow the recording.
Okay, good. Well, this is being recorded now.
Yep.
So we're just starting and I've asked for someone to make a motion to accept the minutes of our December 13th meeting.
So moved.
All right, any discussion? All in favor of the
Second it.
minutes?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in
We're
favor?
being, oh, time out, guys.
I abstain.
I don't think you can second it because you weren't at the meeting as a member of the committee.
You can vote on minutes that weren't, that you weren't.
I didn't attend. I'm abstaining.
Yeah, you can.
Second.
So, one thing though, guys, is since we're recording this, we probably need to, there's other rules we need to follow in a virtual meeting.
Oh, well, what is it that we're not doing?
Well, so we do have to do everything by a roll call vote.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't know that. Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
So we'll do this by a roll call vote. So we have a motion to accept. And so let's see who's in favor of it. Warren? Would you accept the minutes?
I abstain.
You abstained since you weren't there.
I
Rob,
wasn't attending.
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Courtney, since you weren't a member, but you can still vote,
Aye.
and myself. Aye. All right. So that's a majority and we'll accept the minutes. Now, the second item on the agenda is the rail trail. And there's been some developments from our last meeting that Rob is going to report to us on. Rob, do you want to take
Yep.
the role here?
Yeah. I will take it over. Yes, as of our last meeting, a week later, we were going to be having a conference call with some Mass DOT people to find out what role they would be willing to take in this. And there were 3 people from Mass DOT on it. Pete Sutton, who I've met before, who's part of their, like, I think it's the like alternative transportation or whatever, but he's always at anything having to do with rail trails and cycling and pedestrian infrastructure. And 2 other guys I hadn't met before, at least one of them, and I think maybe both of them were from the Rails and Transit Division, which is actually responsible for dealing with anything having to do with railroads. And they basically said that their the head of the Rails and Transit Division is very, positive about this, and as well as the Mass Trails people have been for some time. And they have experience in negotiating with the railroad. They are interested in taking the lead in negotiating with them. They cautioned us that, you kind of have to go to the railroad with a very specific proposal and they'll either accept it or not. And if they don't accept it, they don't want to talk to you again for indefinitely long time. The thing that concerned me, well, a little bit, is that they didn't seem, they basically agreed that we should get together, Sherborn and Framingham, work out what we think we want, and then, sort of refine this pitch with the Mass DOT people, and they were going to take it to CSX and see what they could do. However, there was no, other than, wanting to be the people sitting in the room with CSX, there were no specific commitments from them in terms of where we would get funds from or anything like that. So And they also were not, I thought after the meeting, they seemed somewhat negative about the, you know,
Beth,
all right, they seem to be somewhat negative about the idea of asking for the full corridor all the way up to the main line. It's 85 acres, 80% of it in Framingham. And they seemed like they were sort of pushing the idea of asking CSX for some kind of rails with trails agreement, which would have to be negotiated, have to figure out whether CSX is going to continue to own the property and lease access rights to us for a trail or what. The chair of our little informal committee, the Metro West Greenway Group, Ron Chick, he sent out something to the Framingham legislators afterwards saying that our initial ask was going to be for the full 85-acre corridor, and a fallback from that would be some kind of rails to trails agreement that we would, Sherborn and Framingham would come up with. And then he later modified his position to say, no, the 85-acre thing was not going to be the first ask, and we were just going to ask for some kind of rails to trails agreement. So it's all still up in the air. I don't have any specific notion yet, without having met with these people and scheduled the next meeting, as to, you know, what commitment we would need from the town at this point. The one thing that was moving forward was Framingham, Sarkey, the director of community planning or whatever his position there is. He was strongly of the opinion, having just dealt with all the Bruce Freeman stuff, that a necessary first step for any of this is to do a survey of the property, find out exactly whether we have a correct notion of where the bounds are, where the existing rail lines and structures are, and so forth. So he's planning on just using money in his budget to do a survey in the city of Framingham. I suggested, and I believe he agreed, that he would ask the survey firm to quote on doing a comprehensive survey, including the section in Sherborn down to Whitney Street, and get them to, you know, quote the price on the two pieces separately. In which case we would try and figure out how we would pay for it. I think it would absolutely be necessary to do this, to come up with a really coherent rails to trails kind of proposal.
well, you need the survey regardless of whether it's rails to trails or that we purchase the whole shooting match, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I assume so.
Yeah.
I mean, we have we look at the assessor's maps and we go out and walk there and look at where the places are. You know, I know I don't know what the accuracy of those is, but we have a pretty good idea of like where the rail lines sit with respect to the property boundaries. But
Now, George, you had indicated that a lot of survey work had been done down there as the Sherborn Rural Land Foundation acquired the Humphrey property. So is that survey work still valid and available to us?
I don't know why it wouldn't be. We had used an engineering firm in Framingham called Schofield Brothers Engineering, which is now morphed into DGT. And DGT, as I understand it, is the preferred surveyor that Framingham wanted to use. And I was delighted to hear that, because they've already done so darn much work in Sherborn. And I know some of those principals are quite familiar with that area in Sherborn and in Framingham. So that I took that as a good sign. I'm hoping they are moving in that direction. DGT is not inexpensive, but they're certainly very, they have a good reputation, and their work for us has always been top notch.
So if it gets to that point, and I think, Rob, you're right, at some point, we may have to pony up some money to cover the cost of a survey of that land in Sherborn. Regardless of which direction, trails and rails or just trails, this goes. Right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, CSX has to agree for us to go onto their property to survey it, so.
So there probably will not be any ask of town meeting this spring. Is that fair to say, Rob?
I think so, unless this, unless they get back to us, in the next week or something.
Right.
But I don't know what to ask for at this point.
Right. So I think we should just put that on hold and see how this develops. I was a little impressed with the fact that the Mass DOT has appointed someone. The guy was enthusiastic. He was young, probably new, but that's his responsibility. And maybe if the Mass DOT moves forward with CSX, they may have some money around and may be able to negotiate a purchase of all this land from CSX. And in that case, I'm sure they're going to come to Sherborn for a portion of that purchase price. So generally the way they do it, they'll negotiate a deal and then they'll expect the town to put up 20% or something. So, but that's speculation at this point. But at least we're moving forward and may see something materialize here in 2024.
I have a question for Rob.
Sure, Warren.
It seems to me that the big beneficiaries of this linkage through Sherborn is state of Massachusetts trails, rails to trails. And it's a missing link. And Sherborn is not a big beneficiary of this. We don't even have an access entrance to it on our land. And ours is land very wet and going to be expensive to do, much more so, I think, than the Holliston per mile per foot. In past years, I've regularly walked the section up to Whitney Street, and in the past, there's been heavy water all over the Sherborn link. Anyway, I'm leading to the point that because the big beneficiaries are out there and this is expensive link, is that there ought to be that people look for contributions, funding from outside Sherborn for this, because the big beneficiaries are the two major arms coming together. And I think it's great, and I'm in favor of it, but I don't think Sherborn should be the burden based on the 20% footage or length. It should be who the beneficiaries of this. And there are, as you have MassDOT, maybe trustees of reservations, I'll suggest you also take a look at, because the Open Space Committee and isn't that Seth Malloy that's the rep?
Yep. Yes.
They're the linkage for the Bay Circuit Trail. And that used to go through there until trustees didn't like crossing a railroad bed. And having people walk down Whitney Street is very dangerous. There's no place to go to the side. So restoring that, maybe trustees have funding as just the bicyclists organizations, but it'd be great to have it united. I just don't think Sherborn should be signing up for something until, and certainly CSX is signed on to. So anyway, there's a lot of homework to be done.
You're
Thank
absolutely
you.
right, Warren,
Thank you, Rob.
and I agree with you. The benefactors may not be Sherborn. They're certainly Framingham and Holliston and other communities around us. So we keep that in mind as things move forward here. You're right. I think open space has got an interest in this. Sherborn Forest and Trails has an interest in this. Land acquisition has an interest in this. Sherborn Rural Land, I think, has an interest. They've already got some land down there. So that ought to all be put into the pot and stirred around, and maybe we don't come up with 20%. Maybe we only come up with 15 or 10% or whatever. The apportionate value to Sherborn should be considered as we get into negotiations. But that's an excellent point.
Let me add one more thought that I didn't get in there, is that I think Sherborn should be putting its money toward protecting and ensuring our water resources. And that's land acquisition of recharge areas or combinations that do that. Because as we all know, there's a heavy pressure to develop this town and drop wells in anybody's neighborhood. And I think land acquisition should have that as a high agenda, and direct this to Steve Constantine, who happy to meet at this Zoom meeting. And have been an advocate for protecting land, but a lot cheaper to buy some land if it can be combined in something that preserves our water resources than having to institute a municipal water system.
Yeah.
So that pitch over, I think that I still want to support this rail trail connection, but let's facilitate it and look for funding. Thanks.
Okay. I see Seth is joining us, Rob.
Mhm.
Too bad he missed.
Are there any other comments or questions of Rob? Other than I'm sure he'll keep us all informed as to what materializes with the Solomon Foundation, with Ron Chick and others who are involved in this, as well as the people at the state level. But I don't think there's anything we should do now, Rob, is there, except meet with these people and sort of push along with the agenda?
Yeah, I mean, I had thought about trying to get a warrant article that just allotted a sum of money to be, determined by the select board or something, that just in case something came through for this survey, but I don't know whether that makes sense or whether we should just leave it for the moment. It's probably not going to be a huge amount of money just to pay for a survey of 1.2 miles of straight line railroad track. Can't imagine it deviates much from what's already in the public record.
George, excuse me, George, have you any idea what the survey work might cost for the full, was it 18 acres, Rob?
It's 18.5 in Sherborn, yeah.
I wouldn't want to hazard a guess on that.
Okay.
Just one remark on, sort of Warren talked about where the funds from this come from. I mean, there's various communities that benefit, but you're not going to get any funding from any community other than Sherborn, obviously. But the various public organizations like trustees do sound like a possibility that we can investigate. The big hope the Framingham people had was that the state would come up with some money because the full land acquisition solves some other big problems in Sherborn having to do with flooding of the Beaver Brook area. And they were hoping that they could get some money for that. There's a huge amount of flooding problems there, and all this very large amounts of impervious surface associated with the old GM plant and with the CSX engineering yard just west of there. And so they're kind of hoping you might find some there. The other thing that was mentioned with this meeting with Mass DOT is they seem to think that the state has a significant amount of ARPA funds still available that will be vanishing as of the end of 2024 if they're not spent on something. So there was some thought that that might provide a place to get some money for land acquisition from.
And the other point too, Rob, is that the engineering yard in Framingham that CSX owns is available for sale. And who knows, CSX may be successful in selling that to a developer or some industrial use, and that will significantly cover the cost of that full parcel. So that's a possibility. I know that's being actively marketed right now. So anyway, any more on this?
I would just make a point that, of course, we have Heidi Doyle with us, and Heidi's recently been appointed our town planner, so it's good that she's here so that she, hears these things. But the other thing that I think makes sense is somewhere along the way, if it hasn't already been done, is to have at least communication with the Capital Budget Committee to know that this is on their radar, and they may have some, preliminary questions they'd want to ask about the prospect of our having to pony up some money for a rail trail. I think it's premature to be asking for any money. We have no idea what that's going to necessitate. It's a lot of negotiating and conversations that need to take place before we have a sense as to what things are going to cost. But giving capital budget a heads up is probably a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good point, George. We did talk with the chair of advisory, informed him of this, but we have not talked with capital budget, but maybe we should just give them a heads up. Who's heading that up now?
I don't know. Heidi, do you know?
Heidi?
Yeah, Peter Morse.
Oh, okay.
And they had moved their timing so that requests had to be for this coming fiscal year had to be in by December 1st. And
Okay.
so that they could get a report to advisory when advisory starts their things now. So probably in November, maybe giving them a heads up to say put this on the long-term plan.
Yeah, sure. We could give them a heads up anytime actually, but
Yeah,
November 1st is the calendar they follow. Okay.
they tried to move it earlier so that they've gone through all of their meetings in December.
Peter Morse, do you know him, George?
I do not.
Where does he live, Heidi?
I'm not sure where he lives. He's younger. This is his second year on capital budget. I probably have his contact information. I can forward his email to you.
Okay. Would you please? And
Sure.
I'll follow up on that then, just to keep him in the loop. Who else is on the committee? Do you know?
Yep, it is Nora Smith is the advisory member and Corey Lincoln.
Oh, Corey, sure. Okay.
Yep.
Jeez, we still have Corey working for us, huh? That's great.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Any more on this? Seth, I see you've joined us. You're muted, but you can hear, hopefully.
I am here. I can hear you. I'm following along.
There you are now. Okay. Okay. The next item is the Sherborn annual report. I sent you all a copy of that. I've turned that into Jeannie, but if there's any revisions or modifications or additions or whatever, get them to me, please. It's not much different than the previous years, except we added a paragraph of what we did last year and added a new member, Steve Constantine.
Eric's in the meeting now too, Frank.
What's that?
I just admitted Eric to the meeting.
Oh, hi, Eric. How you doing? We're coming to the close. But
well, sorry about that. I actually went to the police station because I assumed it was there because it's been all the other ones have been there. Then I saw Zoom, came back here, and I've been in waiting room for a while.
oh, I'm sorry, Eric. We didn't see you. Okay,
It's okay.
George, do you want to give us an update? I know the Milborn Farm project has made some progress, and there may be some other things that you'd like to share with us that would be of interest.
Well, I mean, I feel like we met recently about this, but Milborn project is moving ahead. Fundraising is going well. The amount of money that we in Sherborn have been trying to raise, we've almost reached that amount. We're only a couple of $1,000s shy of what our goal was. The total fundraising is in the neighborhood of 13 million that's been raised out of 14.4 is the total goal. And just a quick summary on that is the acquisition price for the land was 10 million. There was a couple of 100,000 needed for purchasing costs, including surveyors and and the lawyers. And then they're trying to raise some additional funds, a couple of million for improvements to the property, most notably the buildings, and then another couple of million or so that would be in a modest size endowment to help maintain the property. So it's looking good. It's a wonderful piece of property. I'm delighted, as we all should be, that it's going to be protected and available for us to all walk and enjoy. And my guess is we'll have a place to do some kayaking and some horseback riding. It should be lovely for us to have.
Good. Well, congratulations, George. I know you've had a big role in this, and we're bringing it to a close here. What, March 1st is the date they're going to close, I guess, with the family?
It's been March. If it's not March 1st, it'll be soon thereafter.
Yeah, right. So, and that'll then be opened up to the public some point during the year, I would assume, when they get.
Well, it probably won't be open until 2025. However, I've gotten permission to host. The Rural Land Foundation will be hosting a walking tour at some time during the year. The details of which have not been worked out quite yet, but we're putting that together.
Yeah, good, super.
Okay.
Any questions about that? All right. Is there anything else that we want to raise?
Just what Seth says, since Seth joined us and your open space committee, and I think you're active in Sherborn Forest and Trail, do you think there'd be any interest in approaching trustees about the Bay Circuit connection being restored as part of the trail connection for the rail trail, to list them in support of the rail trail effort, because then it allows for the footpath connection that got broken up by the trustees originally. Seth?
Yeah, I
You
think
there?
the Sherborn Forest and Trail would definitely be in support of that, and they would the board could put their name down for that. Is that what you're asking?
How about if approaching trustees to see if they be a pocket of support?
Yeah, I think we could do that. We have contacts over there.
Trustees of reservations?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Rob is actually the one that usually contacts them, aren't you, Rob?
Yeah, well, I've contacted them more relative to Rocky Narrows. There's actually a Forest and Trails meeting going on right now that I'm missing. And
Yeah.
talking to them about the other connections down at the south end of town
Right.
on the Bay Circuit that we're trying to make.
Yeah, so I'll send an email to Laura and ask if we can talk to them to see if they would support the idea of obtaining this piece of rail trail. I'm sure they would be in favor of it.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
And Seth, you're sort of keeping them abreast of where things are on that, aren't you?
Yeah, more Rob than I. Yeah, Rob is on the board as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything more? Sorry, Eric, and sorry, Seth, if you went to the police station.
No, that's
I
my
didn't,
fault.
but I was in the waiting room a long time. Who was the host today?
I'm the host tonight, actually. I'm not sure why, but I think I allowed you in pretty quickly after I saw it pop up on the screen, so.
You know, like I kept
No.
going out and in to try to make that pop-up happen, but I had been in for a long time the first time.
Sorry about that.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Okay, I don't see a need to set a meeting date unless someone thinks we should until we have more information to share. Would you all agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that information would be more on the rail trail that Rob is keeping touch on, and as well as any other transactions in town of properties that we have identified as of interest. So why don't we sort of hold our meeting schedule and we'll touch base in the spring just to get caught up with whatever may be going on. Okay?
Hey.
Did we actually do the agenda item about draft report to the annual report?
Yes, I asked if everyone had a chance to look at it. Do you have some comments and changes?
No, I hadn't actually realized it had been sent out.
Oh, yeah. I sent it out Saturday or Sunday this weekend, along with the change in meeting venue.
Okay.
Why don't you take a look at it, Rob, and if there's anything that stands out as missing, needing to be added,
Okay.
let me know. Okay. Well, thank you, folks. Have a good evening. Rob, you can get over to your Sherborn Forest and Trail meeting. There's
Okay.
food still left there for you.
All
as
right,
well as
will
for
do.
Seth. Okay. Okay. All right.
That's probably the meeting that's actually in the police station. All right. Thanks.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks. Good
Courtney,
night.
welcome aboard.